Miss Kristen. I have not been able to be with you guys online in a while, and I'm so happy to be here. I've actually got a couple of announcements for you. We have some fun and exciting things coming up that we are super excited about. One of the things we have coming up is for our Ranger boys. On March 26th, we are going to have a campfire night here at New Life in the backyard. There's going to be games, a campfire, some s'mores, and lots of fun. So if you're interested, have mom or dad go and sign you up online, newlifelehigh.com. It's going to be right here on the bottom of the screen, so you can grab mom and dad to go and register. The second thing that I am really super excited about is that this summer we are going to have kids camp. Yes, you heard that right. We are bringing back New Life Kids Camp. It's going to be here at the church for 1 week. It's going to be July 12th to the 16th, and all the details are coming soon, so be on the lookout because we want to make sure all of you join us. Well, guys, that's it for the announcements. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a couple of songs, and then we'll be right back with you. We'll see you soon.
Here are the hand motions for John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish. That's the first portion. The second portion is have eternal life. Let's try that again. Have eternal life. Those are the hand motions for John 3:16.
Hey guys, welcome back to lesson time. Wasn't that a great time of learning and singing songs and praising and worshiping Jesus? That is some of my favorite times when we're all together. Today's lesson is a very important one, boys and girls. We've been learning about the 10 Commandments, and today's commandment is commandment number 3. Commandment number 3 talks about not using God's name wrong, to respect God's name. And that is so important, boys and girls, that we learn to do that. I have a life story that I'm going to tell you today that's going to teach you all about that. Now remember, guys, life stories aren't real stories. They're just stories that teach us the things that we're trying to understand in a way that's simple for you and me to understand better. So let's learn this story. Let's start. Now up here you see a slide, and we have a special operation going on. And in this special operation, you have General Tuna. Now he is the head of the whole thing, and he's got 2 new recruits that are getting ready to go on a very special mission. We have got Sam and we've got James, and he was giving them the breakdown of this mission. He told them, he said, now guys, listen, you guys are going out there to do some spying for me. I need to find out what the evil Dr. Nose is planning. And I need you guys to go and find a place that you can spy on him. Now, when you go out there, you're going to have very, very important equipment. You're going to have all the latest radars and maps and weapons to protect yourself. But the most important thing that you're going to have is you're going to have a radio. And that radio is going to be directly connected into me and my helpers. And on that radio, when you're in trouble, you're going to have a special access code. You can use that code and it will save you, and we will send help right away. Now, it's very important you remember this code, he told them, and he began to explain the importance of it. He said, this code name is my name. When you're in trouble, you're going to just say the words, General Tuna, and help will be on the way. Do you guys understand this mission? And they said, yes, we do. He said, okay, you're dismissed and good luck. So let's see what happens. After the meeting, Sam and James went back to get ready for their big adventure. And they were nervous and they were excited all at the same time. But, they started to talk, and James, he was kind of not really liking what the general had said, and he began to talk about him. He said, He said, who does that general really think he is? Now, come on. He was just a little bit stiff, and, how come he gave us his name to use as an access code, as protection? And he began to go on saying bad things about him. Now, Sam, he finally interrupted and said, whoa, wait a minute, James. He says, listen, he said, that general is really smart. He has done thousands of missions, and he wants to protect us. So I really think you should probably stop talking about him that way, and you should give his name some respect. And give him the respect that he deserves. Well, James kind of felt silly, and he says, oh, you're right, I'm just joking around. And boys and girls, you know what? We have to remember God's name. God's name is the most powerful name there is. It is the name above all names, the Bible says, and it represents God, who we need to respect. So sometimes we may joke around or say things about God's name, but we have to be very careful, boys and girls, because his name needs to be respected, and he asks us to do that in his commandments by saying not to take his name in vain. So you and I have to remember to respect God's name. So let's see what happens. Well, Sam and James were on their way. They were deep in the mission, and they were on their way to find a hiding spot where they could go and spy on the evil Dr. Nose. And just when they thought they were safe, all of a sudden they were surrounded. They were surrounded by secret agents, and they were telling them, put your hands up, put your hands up. They said, wait, we're on your team. We're special agents too. We're here to find out what the evil Dr. Nose is doing. And they said, well, everybody tells us that. We were given instructions to arrest anybody who came here. Then Sam remembered. He says, no, wait. He says, I can prove to you that we're on your team. And he got on the radio and he says, hello, headquarters? It's us. We're special agents and we're in trouble. And they said, well, what is your access code? They said, our access code is General Tuna. And before you know it, there was all kind of buzz on the radio, and the other officer said, you are correct. You are on our team. Good luck, guys. And he sent them on their way. You see, boys and girls, the name of General Tuna was so powerful. It was a name that the minute the other agents heard it, they knew that he was the boss. They knew he was in charge, and they knew that they were telling the truth. And we have to remember the name of Jesus, the name of God, is so powerful. It is the only name that you and me can be saved, by calling out to Jesus. That's the only way we're saved. And boys and girls, there's so much power in that. We have to respect God's name, and we have to remember how powerful it is. So let's see what happens. Well, they finally got to a cool spot, and they spotted the evil Dr. Nose. They began to set up their equipment, and they began to spy in on him. And before they knew it, he was talking and giving his whole plan away. And they were almost done. They thought, wow, this is great. When all of a sudden, one of his men spotted them and screamed out, spies, spies. The doctor, evil, got up and said, go get them right away. And he sent his men after them. And let's see what happens. Sam and James began to swim as fast as they could. They knew they were in trouble. And James just kept swimming, and Sam kept saying, hey, get on the radio, call for help, use the name, use the code, they'll send help. But James didn't have any part of it. He said, nothing's going to save us now. We're in big trouble. That silly name doesn't mean anything. We have to save ourselves. You better swim really fast. And Sam just kept begging him, please call on the name of General Tuna. They'll send help. And they began to swim faster when all of a sudden there was a huge scream, and it came from Sam. Let's see what happens. Sam fell to the ocean floor, and James could not believe it. Sam had been struck with one of those powerful darts, and he was wounded, and he was hurting, and he just began to beg James, please, call on the radio, call for help. So James did. So he called in, Mayday, mayday, we need help right away. We need help. General Tuna, General Tuna. And before they knew it, the whole place was swarmed with reinforcements and backup to help. And they immediately took Sam off to the hospital. And let's see what happens. When they got there, Sam was hurt real bad. That dart hurt his fin pretty badly, and the doctors had to come in and do some surgeries and fix him up. And General Tuna was right there, and he made sure that Sam had all the best doctors and medicine, everything that he needed to get well. And the doctor said to the general, "General, why do you care so much about this one agent of yours?" And he looked at him and he said, "Because I made a promise. I promised him that if he called on my name, that I would always be there to help him, that I would always be there to protect him, and I need to stay by my promise, and I'm going to stay on my word until he is all better." And the doctors couldn't believe it. Then he looked over at James, and the general said, "James, why didn't you call on my name? I told you if you called on us that we would be there to help you immediately. You didn't believe me, and you did not show respect to me or my name." And boys and girls, you know what? We have to remember that when God makes us promises, he always keeps them. And he's promised us that if we call on his name, he will protect us, he will be there for us, he will hear our prayers, and most importantly, he will save us. We also have to remember that we have a responsibility to remember how important that name is, how powerful that name is, and we can't use it wrong. We can't say, "Oh my, you know what," or maybe use it in a cuss word, because that name is powerful and God intended it for us to be used for good. So let's see what happens with James and Sam. Well, finally, Sam got a little better and the doctors let him go out of the hospital. He had been there a long time, and he went back to visit his old friends, and the first person that he saw was James. And he went up to James, and he's like, "James, how are you? I've missed you. I'm getting better, and I'm so glad to be back. I can't wait to be back on the field." But James, he was angry, and he was getting upset. He said, "How can you come back here? What's wrong with you? General Tuna did not protect you. General Tuna didn't do anything he said. Look at you. You're hurt and wounded, and you've been in the hospital a long time. And that general did not listen to us. He didn't help us." And he was getting very, very angry. And let's see what happens. Well, finally, Sam spoke up. It was his turn to let James know what he thought. And he said, "James, now just wait a minute." He said, "First of all, I'm the one who got hurt. I'm the one that was in the hospital and had to go through all of that, not you. Second of all, he did save us the minute we called on his name. He protected us, and he got us through to where we needed to go, and he sent help." He said, "So you're just angry, and you've been disrespecting his name, and I'm not going to put up with that anymore." And as Sam was saying this, they heard another voice, and it was General Tuna. And he says, So, I don't know what I'm doing?" To James, and James thought, "Oh no." He says, "I knew exactly what I was doing, and I gave you instructions, and you didn't follow them, James. And that's why all of these things happened." And let's see what happens. Well, it isn't hard to kind of guess what goes on from there. You see, Sam, he went on and he healed and he followed General Tuna, and General Tuna helped him to succeed and kept him safe and stuck by him the whole entire journey that he had as a special agent. But James, he didn't have any respect for the general. He didn't believe anything he said. So he ended up quitting and leaving and getting a job as a janitor somewhere else, and wasn't being used to his fullest potential because he did not respect the general. Boys and girls, we're not fish, and we're not in a special agency doing something like that, but we are called by God. We have opportunities and plans that he has for us, and we have to learn to trust God by respecting his name and not using it in a bad way. And that's why it's so important he put it in the commandments. Commandment number 3, do not misuse the name of the Lord our God. Boys and girls, I challenge you this week to respect God's name. Maybe you get angry and want to use it in a cuss word, or maybe you want to just use it wrong, or maybe you don't feel he can save you if you call to him. But I'm going to encourage you to go and spend some time talking to God. And anytime you maybe slip up, just tell him you're sorry and ask him to help you not to use his name wrong. We love you guys so much. We hope you're going to join us at one of our upcoming fun events, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great week.